welcome back to another episode of the AmandaFest podcast, where our mission is simple. It's to inspire and empower you to take aligned action towards your dream life, whatever that looks like for you. I am very excited to introduce my friend Kyla here today. Always seeing the glass half full and believing in endless possibilities for life to improve. She moves through life with joy, singing and dancing, and embraces every challenge as a chance to rise above. She loves to explore new places, try diverse foods, and connect with like-minded souls around the world, which is also how we met. Whether with close friends or family, Kyla shares her light and happiness, believing that true joy comes from life's simplest pleasures: sunshine, good company, and the essentials: food, water, and shelter. Today's episode is going to be all about carving out your own unique path in life. One of Kyla's core beliefs is that life should be enjoyed to the absolute fullest without being tied to a specific career or job. As long as you can find a way to make a living and survive, it is perfectly okay to not follow a conventional path. As we've done with every episode, we're just going to take a quick moment to ground, arrive in the here and now, in the present moment. I know I need it. I was telling Kyla before we hopped on, I've been holding a lot of tension in my jaw recently, and just that noticing of where in your body you're holding on to stress. I like to do my neck and shoulders are typically the spot. The jaw's new for me. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I invite you to do the same. So just close down your eyes. I always like to put a hand on my heart, one on my belly, just to feel connected to my physical body. And I just want you to start noticing, where in your body are you holding tension? And how can we use these breaths in this moment right here and now to let that tension go and to feel a little bit lighter as we step into this beautiful conversation. So we're going to do a couple of nice deep breaths together. We're going to do inhales through our nose, exhales through our mouth. And with every inhale, I want you to think of an intention, something that you're calling in, something that you want to be filled up with. And with every exhale, I want you to think of something that you are letting go of. So we'll take some nice deep breaths in. And out through the mouth. Feel free to roll your neck, move your shoulders, move your body as you release and let go. Nice deep breath in. And last one, make it count. Nice deep breath in. Hold it at the top and exhale, shake it out, make some noise. Welcome. Welcome to your bodies. Welcome to AmandaFest, and welcome, beautiful Kyla. Hi.
Hello, hello.
Hello, tuning in all the way from Costa Rica.
In the jungle.
She's in the jungle. So I always love to start off by telling my guests how we met.
Sure. So we were at a psychedelic conference in Miami, and that was after I had just been living in the jungle a little bit. So my body was open and flowing and ready to connect, but I've kind of always been like this. And I went to, what was it called? We Deepen. It was a play portal.
Yeah.
So we all had like little badges on that said, "Shh, I'm playing." And at the beginning, I just made eye contact with you. And I was like, oh my God, this girl is different. And then throughout the little portal, we had little dances, little winks, little play. And then I saw this like jungle creature come out at you. And I was like, ooh, we're going to be friends. This is interesting. So it was like an immediate comfort and an immediate new friend that I knew I had. And I was excited to explore and connect more.
It was so wild. I was actually volunteering at that event. It was a psychedelic mental health longevity and like biohacking conference in Miami, which was the fucking coolest thing ever. This was right after I had just gotten back from my Eat, Pray, Love, a little European tour. Just before that, I had quit my Hollywood job, packed up my apartment, so I think we were probably in similar life phases at that point. But I was coming home because I'm from South Florida, and I saw that this thing was going on, and I was like, yeah, I gotta go. So I volunteered at this event, and yeah, there was this installation, this pop-up going on that this girl was hosting. I think her name's Christina Weber, I believe. Amazing, amazing experience. But yeah, it was this really cool workshop basically in the middle of, while people were walking from stage to stage. People were like, what the fuck is going on over there? It wasn't closed off in a room. It was just like right there. And yeah, I felt so similarly. Like, so I started doing the workshop. I was in my energy, might have been on a microdose of something, don't remember. But anyway, I'm still the same no matter what. But I remember I saw you, and your aura was just like yellow sunshine. I was like, who is this beautiful girl whose heart is just so open? You have that same playful energy of just like, yeah, let's play, let's connect, let's be here in the now. And I was like, oh my God, I need to know more about this girl. Then we chatted, and you were telling me how you were nomadic and how you were living all these different places. And then you said bougie hippie. And I was like, yeah, yes, the bougie hippie. Where did the bougie hippie come from? What was the inception of that?
I mean, I want to sleep in a glamping tent, not on the ground.
Right.
So I feel like it kind of came from me leading this natural, healthy life and wanting to be more on the earthy side, but I still want to be clean and fresh and know what I'm eating for dinner and not be struggling to survive. And I feel like that can sometimes sort of be the hippie side of things. So I was like, I'm bougie, but I'm also a hippie.
I always say I'm a hippie that shaves.
Yeah. I know I try to be like a little cautious of that topic, but yeah, I like to remove my hair and be a naked mole rat too.
I mean, like, listen, no judgment to the people that do that, but that's just like, it's a different brand. It's a different, I'm the same. And so when you said that, I had been using that term to describe myself before. And so when I saw that was your Instagram handle at the time, or it was in your bio, I was like, yeah, girl. I was like, we're cut from the same cloth. I was like, I'm going to Burning Man and I'm roughing it, but I also like the finer things in life.
End of the day.
Yeah, be nice. Amazing. Well, I would love to hear. I know you've got Toronto, Spain, Costa Rica. Where did you start, and where are you now, and what was your journey to get there?
Whew. Okay. I feel like I can start with how I got to Costa Rica and how that path stemmed. So I was living in Toronto and I was super unhappy with just certain things in life. And I was like, I just feel like this is my mindset. So I started microdosing every day, and I was like,
mushrooms?
I was like, I am in control of my mind. I can do this. So throughout the winters living in Toronto, I was like, okay, I'm in control. I'm in control. And of course there was days where I was like, whew, this is tough. This is hard. I don't know how long I can do this. I kind of want to get out. And I always had this pull to Costa Rica before I had even come. So during the pandemic, I did my 200-hour yoga teacher training on the computer. And I was like, is this life? Everything just through a screen and not being able to connect with people in person. I was like, no, this is not how I want to live my life. So I was like inviting in new experiences. I'm like, okay, what's next? So then I see that this same course was doing their yoga teacher training in Costa Rica. So throughout my life, I always had to ask my dad for permission. Can I do this? Can I do that? This time I was like, I'm an adult. I have my own money. I'm not asking, but I want to tell him, Dad, I'm going to Costa Rica for a month. I'm turning off my phone and I'm going to live in the middle of the jungle. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to live in the middle of the jungle. And he's like, okay, send me the pin. Like, what does this place look like? Where are you
Send me the pin.
So I'm like, yeah, I fly into the main city and then I take another small plane. I had the whole thing mapped out. He goes, you're my youngest daughter. I'm just going to drive you. I'm like, okay, it's like a 7-hour drive. He goes, no problem. Let's take 5 days, have a father-daughter trip, and stop in every city along the way. And that, I was like, wow, this man is like, it's going to bring tears to my eyes. I'm like, this man is now respecting my journey, respecting my freedom. I'm now an adult. I'm his friend. So he called my uncle. He's like, we're taking Kyla on an adventure. You and I, we're going to go into the jungle for 5 days, stop in every place, stay there the night where she's going to be living, and then drive back to
Aw,
San
he wanted
Jose.
to make sure you were safe.
Exactly. So then we stopped in a town called Dominical, which is about 20 minutes away from where I live now. I got out of the car. Me and my dad looked at each other, and I was like, this is home. And he's like, I felt that too. So throughout the trip, we kept talking about this Dominical place. And like, I don't know what it is. It just like felt so good to be there.
Yeah.
Continued on our journey, fast forward. Yoga teacher training was incredible. I stayed in Costa Rica for a month longer. I was like, I got to get back here. I just don't know how. Ended up going to Spain to visit my mom and grandma and then circled back in Toronto, and I was nannying again. So then it was winter. I was microdosing again. And I'm walking down one of the busiest streets that goes from North Toronto to South Toronto. It's snowing. There's like ambulances. Everyone's honking. I'm like, okay, I'm having this feeling again. Like, this isn't life. This isn't for me.
Yeah.
And the place I'm living now, they had posted that they needed someone to run their bed and breakfast for the winter. And I always believe that like wherever you should go, you should be working locally, experience what it's like to make local currency, see how it is to live like in their means. So I was like, when can I start? So 2 days later, I flew out back to the jungle, now this town that's 20 minutes outside of Dominical, and I was living here for 3 months.
And you're in Uvita now, right?
I'm in Uvita now.
Okay.
And then 3 months goes by, and Michelle, the woman I live with now, goes, so can you stay 3 months longer? I'm like, sure. I don't really have anywhere to be. And then I ended up doing this job for 2 years, going back to Toronto in the summer, nannying a little bit, babysitting, doing like little side gigs for friends, and then circling back. And here I am now. And then the connection with Spain is my mom and grandma live there. So I'll just always have that as my holding space, my comfort zone. But I usually don't make money there. That's my little
Vacation.
Zen den, my vacation where I go to reset.
It's amazing. I love this story. I love it so much. Also, your dad, he's a fucking real one. My God. Like, men, take notes. If you have daughters, if you're thinking about being a dad, this guy.
Well, I dragged him to the jungle and I brought him to Envision twice.
Dude, we were supposed to go to Envision together this year. I'm so sad it got postponed.
It's just going to be better.
Wait, so what was that experience like? Are you the... I coined a new term. It's not the black sheep. It's the unicorn. Are you the unicorn of your family?
Yes. So I actually shared an experience with someone in Miami as well. And he looked at me, he's like, I actually like get it. You're a unicorn. And I was like, but what does that mean? And now I finally just embody it. And when people ask me, I'm like, yeah, I'm a unicorn. It's just this like majestical, magical being that just sees things as rainbows and unicorns.
Literally. I mean, there's also another meaning to it, but
I know. I don't follow that one.
But it is though. But I say that where I'm like, oh, I'm the black sheep of my family. That doesn't sound accurate because black sheep sounds like you're doing something bad or wrong. It's like, no, I'm the fucking magical unicorn that's carving my own path, that's doing my own thing. Okay, so you are that in your family. So your dad, he's embracing it fully, sitting there taking notes. What does your dad do?
He's a dental technician.
Okay.
He lives in Toronto. He makes teeth, but his whole mantra is creating your smile.
Aww.
So he basically lives his life in a very similar manner that just the glass is always half full, very positive. So it makes sense. He's like, you need to smile. You need to look good. So it's interesting how they like come into play together.
And he was open to going to Envision. What was that experience like for you?
Oh, I didn't tell him. Envision is basically a wellness, ecstatic dance, eco festival in the jungle. Mm-hmm. So it's usually around 10,000 people and there's no garbage. So everything you get served is on like a banana leaf or a reusable plate.
Love.
And I just find everyone is in their kind of primal animalistic phase. And if you went into it not feeling like that, you'll
You're
leave
leaving.
feeling
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So what was it like bringing dad there?
So when he had come down as I was working at the bed and breakfast, I was like, Dad, I got 10 days off. Why don't you come down and stay with me and we'll just see what's going to happen. So then he kind of like, oh, I heard there's a festival going on. I'm like, yeah, we'll see. So then when he gets here, it was day one of the festival. I was like, okay, let's go. We're going to wait outside to buy tickets. And he goes, so what is this thing anyways? So then every day we would go and we would stay a little bit longer, explore a little bit more, walk in a different direction, split up, go and meet at a tree in an hour. And then eventually, like day 3 or 4, he looks at me, he goes, I figured it out. We're at a Viking mushroom village. I go, what are you talking about? He's like, look around. The way everyone is dressed, the way they're like gathering each other, and you either find your mate at the end or you don't. And I just feel like it really deepened our relationship. And he saw another perspective of my openness and my life and my
Right.
light and my willingness to connect in a different way that's not so conventional in Toronto.
Yeah.
So
That's so cool. I feel like our dads would get along.
yeah, bring him next year.
My dad literally, when he meets people, he's like, my daughter's a rolling stone. My mom was like, Amanda, he tells everybody that, like anybody who will talk to him, he's like, I have one kid that's a lawyer, another one that's in law school, and then a third one that's just a rolling stone, man. Did you always have a really close relationship with your dad? From my experience, it was like I had a certain type of relationship with my parents. I went through my spiritual evolution, and similar how you're saying, like, oh, now the relationship shifts and changes where now you're no longer child, you're friend. I feel like I'm in a whole new era of my relationship with my parents post me doing my own work. Curious if you had a similar.
I feel like it's always been a common ground of respect, especially with my mom and my dad, but I guess it changes when the discipline stops as much. I just think my dad finds me very interesting. He's like, what's Kyla up to over there? We've always kind of had like a really beautiful family dynamic, my entire family.
I love that. So what are you doing in Costa Rica now? Like, what does your days look like?
So I just started sound healing.
Love.
Because I sing. My 2 pillars of interest have always been music and children. And whatever I do, it's like always stemming back to that and coming back to that. So I have a weekly sound healing session here at one of the local yoga studios called Soul Rising. And then I nanny 2 kids. Other than that, I'm going to farmers markets. I'm going to ecstatic dances. I just started a YouTube channel to sort of...
you did it.
Yes. So I'm starting with the shorts because I'm a little bit nervous. So just putting out positivity quotes and getting people off their rocker and thinking in a different mindset. So yeah, I feel happy, healthy, and ready to go.
I fucking love it. Well, I'm really proud of you. I know we were chatting about the YouTube thing. I think it's so good, and you'll get more comfortable as you start to do it more and more. My biggest piece of advice in that realm is just feel the fear, do it anyway. If doing a long form piece of content feels like an edge for you, lean in.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. And then once you do it, you prove to yourself, oh, I can do anything. I'm magical. I want to loop back a little bit to the way that you're describing Toronto, right? And that environment and being around the concrete and the snow and the sirens. I'm such a big believer in like truly how important your environment is in your overall well-being. It is one of the most, I feel like, slept on, overlooked elements of happiness. I'd love to hear your perspective on that and just like how you were really able to take that inventory and make that shift at what that emotional, physical experience was for you.
I feel like what it really was for me is I wasn't able to deeply connect with people there. Human connection is probably one of the most important things for me in life. And when I was in Toronto, I would go to cafes, I would go to places to have lunch. I just feel like I couldn't find a crew or a squad or people. So I felt it very like lonesome. And I was just spending lots of time at home drinking tea and reading my books. And I love that. But I also love the option to go out and connect. And I've been traveling like since I was very young alone. I started traveling alone when I was 17 or 18. I would just see a different way of life, like Spain was a big place that I would see it. And I was like, wow, people are sitting at cafes and talking to each other. And
Yeah.
I was kind of like always longing for that and missing that. And then I felt, but Toronto's my home. I don't want to leave this place. There's something that's always going to bring me back. And then when I had gone to Costa Rica, I was like, okay, it's okay that this place is my home, but it doesn't mean I have to live here.
Right.
And then it's interesting now that being away is I feel like I do need to go back there for like 3-4 months a year to share my light, to share everything that I've learned and to help brighten up that city.
Yeah.
That kind of like field of grass and that one sunflower going in, I genuinely feel like I can go into a room and spark some light, ask different types of questions. And people are like, are you a unicorn? I'm like, yes.
Literally, I love that. I feel that way in festivals. I talk about this all the time with the EDM scene. I feel that many people in the conscious community in the spiritual spaces don't necessarily like shows, concerts, EDM festivals because of the dark energy sometimes in those spaces. And I feel literally the way you described it. I love that, the field with the sunflower, because that's how I feel. I'm like, those spaces need us. They need conscious light people in those spaces to show people what's possible and to give off that energetic aura. Because I just saw Dom Dalla in LA. And I was like seething through the crowd, and you can feel it. Like, I don't know about you, but it's like energetically when I'm walking through a crowd, like if I walked past you in a crowd, I would be, and I did. That's literally how we met. Like, I'm like, ooh, yes. And then I'll be, ooh, no. I get these weird pings in my body of just, I can feel if someone is safe, if someone's not safe, if someone's fucked up and in a dark place. And it's not to say that like everyone needs to be all love and light all the time, but it's just a certain frequency that you're emitting. And it's true. There is science to the frequency that you give off. And when you show up in spaces and you're emitting that frequency, you're spreading it. You're helping those spaces. I felt also like with LA, like I loved LA. I love being in LA, but I reached a point in my journey at LA where I was like, I don't feel like I'm having impact here versus taking all of the medicine that I received in LA and then traveling how I've been the last 2 years. I'm like, ooh, I get to create impact in places where they don't have this, where what I'm sharing and my perspective and my frequency and my energy is like, it's a fucking sunflower in a field of grass. It's a breath of fresh air.
And that brought me to another point that I wanted to share with you. This has helped me regain my sparkle or regain my light, because I would be in rooms and people would be like, you're so weird. You're always so happy and bubbly all the time. And then when I would be around people and like recharge my light and feel the same, I was like, no. A candle loses nothing when it lights another flame. So I was
love
like,
that.
I can continue to be this like bright and happy light. And just because you're taking from me and you don't like it, it doesn't mean I'm going to change. So that's when the perspective shift of like, no, I can go back to these places, shine and share my light, go back, recharge, heal, be around people. And the other thing I wanted to share is the whole thing around the festivals. This is why you're going to love Envision. Everyone is like this.
Yeah.
You go around and meet 10 to 100 people in one day that you're just like, ooh.
Yeah. I love that. And I also feel like it takes a certain level of work within yourself to be able to go back to those spaces and to not take it personally, because that takes a lot. Growing up, I always felt like the odd man out. I didn't feel like I could connect with people. I grew up in South Florida, and it was like, bougie, upper, middle class, like very, it was all about like, what car do you drive and what neighborhood do you live in and what do your parents do for work? And I just was like, I don't fucking care. Like, I just don't care about that stuff. When I found the drama club, like that's where my people were. But anytime I went anywhere else, it was like everybody was trying to dim my light, right? Do you know the artist Ashniko?
No.
Okay, so there's this artist, and she has a line in one of her songs that says, like, you can't stand to see me shine, better buy a visor.
Hey, yes.
And it's like, yeah, because when you haven't developed that self-worth, and also when you don't have that confirmation that there's other people out there that are on your vibe, you feel weird. You're like, am I wrong? Should I just shut up? Should I dim my light? Should I try to fit in? Should I, like, I don't know. There's so many layers to evaluate. If you're not happy, environment is so important. Like, it is essential. Like,
Yeah.
and
And
that includes physical environment. And who are you around?
Yeah.
Who are the 5 people that you're spending the most time with, that you're surrounding yourself with? What is their energy, and how does their energy impact you?
Mm-hmm. And that can happen in a big city, right? Because there's so many people that are kind of on this low frequency, this low vibration. And you're like, okay, I can't be the light for 1,000 people per day. So it becomes exhausting and draining. And then that's why I think people like us sort of need breaks from these environments. We need to go recharge. We need to go be in nature, in an open air home, in the jungle, or anything that works for you, right?
It's so interesting. I'm in New York City right now, and I took a break. If you knew me back in high school, you knew me back in middle school, I was like, New York or bust. The fact that I never actually ended up for real living in New York City is like wild to me. But I went and I did my LA thing. I don't live here now either. I'm still technically nomadic. I'm just squatting somewhere for a little bit. But I needed to go fill my cup. Like I always say, I'm like, LA unlocked pieces of me that I would have never discovered had I not gone to those spaces. I needed to be in those environments. When I first got into like ecstatic dance and the conscious community and all this, I remember talking to people and meeting them and being like, oh, I knew it. I knew people like this existed. I knew there was more. And it was wild because I didn't have the example of it. Like how you're saying, growing up, it wasn't like I had the cool aunt that was off doing the thing. I didn't know for sure. Generations now, they have TikTok, they have Instagram. Like you see what's possible. You really have access to it. We really didn't have access to knowing what's possible. For some of us, it was just like a deep inherent knowing that something's not right and there's gotta be more. That's what I felt. Yeah. Like I was like, this isn't it. Everybody's dream was to repeat their parents' lives. And my parents built a beautiful life. Like, I mean, I grew up in a nice neighborhood. They am like, we're good. But I was like, that's not my path. There's something more. And I don't know what it is, but I know it exists. Like, I just know.
I have a little saying, like, don't follow the path of someone living in a box that you would never want to live in.
Yes. 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 I heard a quote recently similar to that where it's like, don't take advice from anybody who's not living your dream life. Mm-hmm. Like if people aren't doing the thing that you want to be doing. But honestly, that's also a big part of why I wanted to do this podcast, because I was like, how many people are going to go through their entire lives and never get to talk to somebody like you? And that's why I think it's so amazing that you're going to start this YouTube channel and it's going to be an amazing success, because people need to see and hear these examples of what's possible. They need to know, they need to like say, I know it's possible because she's doing it. So I can do it. It's possible. It exists. Mm-hmm. It's alive in the world and I know about it.
What else is possible and how does it get any better than this?
Show me how good it gets, universe. Show me how fucking good it gets. Oh, no, it's so true, man. It's just really interesting when you're in those spaces, when you're in those environments. I loved how you described it up at the top of this podcast where you were like, this isn't it. You went back and you're going through the motions and you're doing the things and you're like, a big piece of that is about like connecting to self. When I talk about changing your life, right? We talk about the podcast is take aligned action towards your dream life, whatever that looks like for you. Sounds great, right? The first step to doing that is what the fuck is your dream? And the first step to figuring that out is like tuning in, connecting to yourself, recognizing, I don't feel good here. This environment isn't lighting me up. These people are not inspiring me. This is not it for me. Do you find any particular practices, or was there anything that really helped you to get to a space where you were able to connect deeper to yourself, to be able to go through that process of getting to the place where you're like, I'm leaving and I feel confident in doing this?
Microdosing psychedelic mushrooms. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
It honestly changed my life and changed my trajectory. I had kind of heard about it, like started to read about it, and I was like, why don't I just try it myself?
Yeah.
So I did like 3 months straight in the dead of winter in Toronto, which can be brutal. Like everything is gray city, gray roads, gray snow, gray sky. And I just like didn't really care about anything. And I was just like so in my heart. And it was like my brain had a different frequency and different waves, and people were noticing my energy. And they're like, what do you? And I would tell people, I'm like, listen, I'm like microdosing mushrooms right now. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was a really big step. Of course, like your morning practices, yoga, things like that. Those are all like little tools, but microdosing psychedelics.
And it's amazing that that's how we met, right? We met at the
Yeah.
psychedelic conference. I talk about psychedelics all the time. I haven't actually touched on microdosing in this podcast yet. Microdosing mushrooms allows your brain that is thinking that there's only one way through to open up to the possibility of other avenues. Did you know anybody that was doing that, or you literally were just reading about it and then just decided, this is what I'm going to try, this is what I'm going to do?
One of my friends had invited me to do a larger dose. So I had never tried them before, but no, I didn't know anyone that was doing like the smaller doses. I just read about it and I said, okay, I can read about this all I want, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to know how it feels unless I put it into practice. And then I did, and I was like, whoa, this is like no joke.
Did you do a larger dose? Did you do a journey, a bigger journey?
I did. Yeah, that was how I first was introduced to mushrooms.
And what was that experience like?
I felt so good. Like
Mhm.
everything was magical. I was so grateful that I had created my little space in Toronto. And my goal in Toronto was to have a space that everyone felt safe and comfortable and held. That's like how I create all of my spaces. And then when I did this with my friend, he's like, oh, I just feel so at home here. And I'm like, yes.
I love
So
it. Oh, you
it
did
was
it in
interesting.
your place.
Yeah, just like sitting on the couch. We brewed up some tea, put on some nice music, and just lied down and laughed. It was amazing.
I love
And I
it.
feel like ever since that moment, my brain didn't really go back to the way it was before.
Yep, I could not agree more. With psychedelics in any capacity, it shows you the possibility of a new way of life. And then the real work is integrating that medicine into your body, embodying that understanding, and then knowing how to tap into that energy when you're not.
It's like showing you what you're capable of feeling. And
Yeah.
then you can't get rid of that. Not that you want to, but you feel that and you're like, oh, I can actually feel like this all the time. I kind of describe it as like it tricks your brain into letting you know that this is possible, this state of mind, this state of
Yeah.
happiness. So
It's so wild. I'm like, every time I've talked to anybody that's going through a hard time, that's, dealing with a breakup or feeling stuck or feeling lost, it's not that I think everybody should take psychedelics, but I think everybody should take psychedelics.
It's interesting how people are so inclined to take like pharmaceuticals, but
Yep.
then when you suggest something natural, they're like, oh no, I'm not taking magic mushrooms. I'm like, okay.
My favorite thing I saw recently, it was like, plant medicine is not alternative medicine.
No, it's
The
the
original. It's the original. It's not alternative. Like,
yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah. And it's what's like the same concept of people that are doing their yoga and eating all organic food and then snorting coke on the weekends. And you're like, wait a minute, like what? That doesn't make sense. I think it's societal. I think it's shifting. We're in a really interesting time of this psychedelic revolution that is coming about. And I think it's cool for people like us to be able to come onto platforms like this and talk about these things, because it's like, oh, it's not just some rich and famous person over there or some weird guru over there. It's like normal people are discovering the beautiful powers that these medicines have and the ability that they have to unlock magic within us and to allow us to shift and change. I honestly think any person that I admire, that I've looked at, that I'm like, wow, they're living the most magical life ever, they've all sat with psychedelics. They've all gone through a deep spiritual personal development journey, because you don't know what's possible it unlocks this capacity for magic. That's the only word I can think of. If you want to live the most magical life of your dreams, if you want to create a reality beyond anything imaginable, you have to get out of your like singular neural pathway understanding of, okay, my biggest aspiration is to repeat my parents' life and to make a lot of money and to have children and rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And you're like, wait, I can have real impact in the world. I could do things just because it feels good. Like I could move to Costa Rica and live off the land. Like that's available to me. What? Like,
Getting out of your own way.
like what the fuck? I'm sure people meet you all the time and are just like, it's showing people like you can do whatever you want in this life. Like truly you can. And you get to be that embodiment of it. I just love that you exist in this world.
Thanks.
What is the dream for the YouTube?
I've got a couple visions when I was sitting with my eyes closed, meditating, kind of like going into that theta brainwave state, that I'm just inspiring mass amounts of people to live like a happier, healthier, more positive life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how can I touch these people on such a high level or so many people at once? And I finally was like, oh my God, I can do it on YouTube.
Yep.
So of course, one day I want to be on stages and motivational speaking and helping people get out of their head and into their body and just like feel happier. So I really want to use it as a platform to touch as many people as possible for now. And then hopefully in person as well, but I'll do it from the joys of my jungle.
I love.
And see what else is possible.
I literally love it. It's wild to me once you start stepping into your heart-centered space and like getting in alignment, that people that are on the same path literally are just like floop, 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 floop,
yeah,
floop, floop.
I know.
Because I'm like, I have an entire fucking Rolodex. I know that's an outdated term now. I have my contacts. I just dated myself hardcore.
I've never even heard of that.
It's actually before my time, but I worked at a talent agency where they still use that term. The Rolodex is your list of contacts, people that you know that you can call on, that you can connect with, network with, your friends, your list of your people. Because in the olden days, before cell phones, if you met somebody, so you'd write their name and phone number, and then you would put it on this thing that like rolls. I feel like my Rolodex is full of magical, amazing, like-minded unicorn fairy angels that have very aligned, very similar purposes, all with their own different flavor. They need all of us to be doing it in our own unique way.
We're not competing, we're collaborating.
When you're at a higher level of life and business, you're no longer competing with people. It's all about collaboration. I see such big things happening, and this vision of just spreading this message and getting people involved and helping others, because it's changed my life. We, as the embodiments of this type of work, it's our fucking duty to share and show others what is possible in this life. And to, even if one person is inspired, one person listens to this podcast and like, wow, I can do that. Shut the fuck up. I'm so happy we connected. What is the best way for people to find you, connect with you, work with you? We're going to put everything in the show notes anyway, but just for those that are just solely listening, would love to give you the opportunity to share that.
I would say on Instagram or YouTube now, it's just my name, Kyla Jorgensen. So Amanda will spell it below.
This was so fun. Guys, thank you all for listening. If you haven't already done so, please rate, subscribe, like, comment. Feel free to reach out to me. Let me know what you liked from this episode, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.